Good afternoon, everyone. As I quote Sheryl Sandberg, CEO, Facebook, that the word female, when inserted in front of something, is always met with a note of surprise. Female CEO, female pilot, female surgeon, women scientists, etc. As if a gender implies surprise. But we all await that one day when there won't be female leaders, there will be just leaders. A warm welcome to you all to the very first session in the webinar series on the theme Each for Equal Promoting Women in STEM, which is being organized by Vigyan Prasar. We are extremely privileged to have with us today former principal, Miranda House, University of Delhi, Dr. Pratibha Jolly. We extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to you, ma'am. We also have with us Dr. Nakul Parashar, Director, Vigyan Prasar, who has been guiding us throughout all endeavors. We welcome you, sir. We also have a large group of women scientists, researchers, science teachers, and students from and all the people who are attending this webinar through YouTube and India Science, where it is broadcasted live. For setting in the context of the webinar, we have with us Dr. Kinkini Das Gupta Mishra, Scientist F at Gender and Digital Communication Programs of Vigyan Prasar. She has been the torchbearer in the whole process of conducting these webinar series. But before I invite Dr. Mishra for throwing light upon the concerns of the webinar, I would like to remind the audience to mute their microphones for avoiding any disturbances during the session. Also, I would like to encourage the audience to avail this golden opportunity to interact directly with the speakers as well after the talk, or they can post their questions and queries related to the talk in the comment section using the hashtag each for equal. So I request Dr. Mishra to proceed with the session.
Thank you, Tusha. Greetings to you all. As we say that equal world is an enable world, globally empowering women is necessary to bring gender parity. Gender equality is a step to bring about the change towards the process of empowering women. Women need to march ahead by identifying their strengths and abilities, move towards an enabled world. In recent years, we have seen that the number of women involved in science has significantly increased. However, although there are encouraging signs, the entry and the retention of women in science and technology is still a matter of concern for the scientific academia, who is a stakeholder in the process. Gender equality is essential for economies and communities, and we have seen to thrive. Skill gaps are a key constraint to innovation, hindering productivity, growth, and economic development. In particular, shortages in the supply of trained professionals in disciplines related to STEM may weaken the innovation potential of a society. As we are seeing that although women are graduating with science degrees in increasing numbers, their representation diminishes by the time they reach at a senior level. To give women a sense of and ultimately ensure that world benefits from their ideas and insights, there needs to be a pushing of communities to amplify and encourage the influence of women in STEM. Government of India is continuously striving towards enhancing women participation in science education and research. Although numerous schemes are already being implemented to enhance the women's entry, retention in science education and research, the gender still exists in science, technology, and engineering and mathematics, which we call it as STEM. To address this issue, Vigyan Prasar had initiated a webinar series on topics related to bringing more women in STEM education and research under the banner Each for Equal. This series aims to contribute to the academic and policy debate by reviewing the main factors put forward to explain gender inequalities in recruitment, promotion, retention in STEM disciplines, and by providing evidence of the scope and results of policies directed to obtain a better gender balance in the sector. As a science communication and popularization organization of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, Vigyan Prasar believes that as science communication develops as a field of both practice and research, it also needs to address issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion, also wide range, including race, power, class, and gender. Doing so will require a deeper understanding of the conceptual work and practical activities that address these issues. Hence, this webinar series aims to contribute to the academic debate by reviewing the main factors put forward to explain gender inequalities in recruitment in all the STEM disciplines in the institution, advancing women in scientific institutions by providing evidence of scope and results of policies directed to obtain a better gender balance in the sector. We are very honored and privileged to have with us today eminent educationist and physicist, Dr. Pratibha Jolly. She is also the academic consultant, NAC, and also former principal, Miranda House University of Delhi, to deliberate on the topic Women, Educator, Scientist, Entrepreneur, the Future is Yours. Welcome you, ma'am. Dr. Pratibha served as principal, Miranda House, a premier college for women at University of Delhi, a post she held for 14 years from 2005 to 2019. And under her dynamic leadership, Miranda House received India rank 1 under National Institution of Ranking Framework NIRF, 4 successive years from 2017 to 2020. Dr. Jolly has wide-ranging synergetic contributions. She's passionate about endangering changes, early adoption of new technologies, faculty development, capacity building of women in science and leadership roles, entrepreneurial activities, mentoring diverse student populations, creating technology-enhanced activity, teaching learning environment, promoting project-based learning, and helping students build successful careers. Dr. Jolly has helped Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, develop the project Gati, Gender Advancement for Transforming Institutions. It is a new intervention for gender equality in STEM disciplines. As a principal investigator, she has started work on developing an innovative framework for assessment and accreditation of institutions for higher education and research. It is hoped that this will usher level system and cultural changes in the ecosystem of institutions. It is very motivating to have with us our director, Dr. Nakul Parashar, Director Vigyan Prasar, who has been a constant source of guidance and inspiration to us during the entire process of conceptualizing and initiating this webinar series and all other programs of Vigyan Prasar. We welcome you, sir. I request you now to deliver the welcome address to the August gathering. Over to Dr. Nakul Parashar, Director Vigyan Prasar. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Great. A very warm good afternoon to everyone, and my heartfelt thanks to the most esteemed speaker of this gathering. We are privileged to have you here with us, Professor Jolly. It's indeed a pleasure for us. At all occasions, wherever you've been with us, we've had success, and I guess this series that has just gotten started and get started with you, I'm sure will go a long way. So the very first, they say the first impression is the last impression, and I'm sure your speech today is going to be an hallmark of all that we plan to do in the series, in the other lectures of the series to come. Thank you so much, ma'am. We are really honored to have you with us, and thank you for accepting our invitation. Professor Jolly, Dr. Kinkini, and all esteemed participants of this webinar, on behalf of Vigyan Prasar and the organizing committee, I welcome all of you, and I'm sure that you're all doing good, you're staying safe, and are happy. The topic today that talks about women, educator, scientist, entrepreneur, future is yours. Future, why future? It's always yours, and it has been, it is, and it is always be. Why I'm saying so is on basis of my personal experience. I started my career as a teacher at Delhi College of Engineering way back in early 90s. And that's where I taught few young budding women technocrats And it gives me an immense pleasure to say that these students of mine have done much, much better than I have done. And I feel very proud to tell you that some of them whom I met at various places, at various occasions, at various instances. I remember it was a nail biting cold somewhere in November, late November, on the streets of Stamford in Connecticut. I was walking back from the station to my home, and immediately a car comes, stops, and somebody says, "Hey, sir, where are you going? Why don't you come inside?" And I turned around and I couldn't recognize. There was an Indian girl, but I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." She said, "Just come in, and then I'll tell you who I am." And and as we passed through the RBS building, the Royal Bank of Scotland, she is the chief economist of that bank. She was chief economist of this bank, and she's now moved to different places. Now she works with one of those organizations that do asset management for $1 trillion. It's a matter of pride for me. It's a matter of and so the story doesn't end here. I stopped teaching, got into corporate world, worked for a long time, and then I got into something called scientific, technical, medical research journals copy editing business. This is where I was looking for youngsters to come up, take up. People with the flair for English, with science background was important. And this is where I bumped into another girl who came from one of the universities from Chitrakoot. And she says, "I'm very willing to get into this, and I would like to do scientific copy editing of research journals." I said, "Your background?" She says, "Yes, I'm a student of Kendriya Vidyalaya and have a fair understanding of language and science subject as well." We started working with her. She worked very hard. And I have a pleasure to tell you that she is now the Executive Vice President of Global Operations at Elsevier. And Anita Chandraprakash is her name. And I feel very nice and it was, as I said, people have grown much, much bigger heights and this is what teachers are meant for. This is what, when we talk of equality in a world of Elsevier, where you have more than 23,000 employees worldwide, where she leads that entire team worldwide. It gives me an immense pleasure to see many such examples. And I mean, they could have been, I could have gone on and on. As I said, I taught at a college, so I normally don't stop before my 40 minutes are over. But you know and maybe that is why when Professor Jolly just asked 40 minutes, I was about to comment, but I thought I'll reserve it for my talk here and use this here. So, well, what we've seen is that it's all about that we need to take, and everybody has that inspiration. I remember my seventh standard Hindi book that I studied in school, which talked about Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, who went around and established a big university without a single penny in his pocket. That is he has been an inspiration for me, and I did the same as well. But what he said is more important. He said, "देश के हर द्वार पर एक दाता खड़ा है, पर कमी उन हाथों की है जिनमें वो अपनी भेंट दे सके." So it implies well for women as well. Everybody is willing to give. It's all that we need to develop that passion to go and get it. I remember about a year ago, there was another women's conference, women conference that was organized by DST, and there was some I don't remember the name. Either it was Mrs. Chandra or somebody, a very famous bureaucrat, and she came up on the stage and said that we say that we are women, we are weak, we have this problem, we have that problem. She says, no, we all have problems, and yet it is that internal strength that we have gotten that we need to just invoke it. the moment you invoke it, right, there is that tipping point that lights the whole thing. So once you break that tipping point, once you break that barrier, sky is the limit. And it can happen at any point, any moment. As we say, jab socho tab savera. The moment you think about it, you can start doing it. So it's not a pep talk, but I just wanted to share my personal experiences that I've seen it happening practically. And it is practically realizable. It is 100% plausible. So when we talk about that, the future is yours, I would say the future, why future? The present is yours as well. So there's much more that I'm sure I can go on and on about it. But over here, we are all very eager to hear Professor Jolly, who's accepted our invitation and has honored us to, lead this series today. So I'll stop what I wanted to say here, and I'm myself very eager to hear Professor Jolly as well, and that's the reason why I'd like to stop here and give way so that we can hear Professor Jolly. Thank you, Dr. Kinkini. You've been a great friend, a great support for Vigyan Prasar, and I truly appreciate, because this entire brainchild of yours will go a long way. And as I said, you have all of us at Vigyan Prasar, our unconditional support to take it forward. Thank you so much. Bravo. And over to Dr. Kinkini Dasgupta to take it forward from here. And thank you once again, Professor Pratibha Jolly. We are indeed honored to have you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words, sir. It has been really inspiring for all of us. I now request Dr. Pratibha Jolly, who is our expert speaker today, for her talk and presentation. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you once again for accepting our invitation and be with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Vigyan Prasar and your kind words, Kinkini, in introducing me. And of course, Professor Parasha, it's been such a pleasure to have met you and worked with you. DST is very, very close to my heart, because, my first funded project, and that too in education, came from DST way back in '82 at 50,000 rupees. And I was actually never going to be in education. I wanted to go and do my research. But, with that project, serendipity set in, and I was caught for a lifetime. And project-based learning became my mission. And I also really feel that I should actually not be using my slides, but I should also tell you a story. But with a large audience, sometimes it's good that one should go with the slides and, have more interesting sharing of personalized stories later. And Kinkini and I have been doing that for a long time, and it's such pleasure. So to give structure to something that is best told, sitting across a table with some coffee or sitting under a tree, I will, in these very interesting times, share with a large number of people wherever they are, sitting in the comfort of their own homes with their own cup of coffee. So thank you very much for inviting me. And let me also add that I had lost faith in the formal classroom teaching. And I left Miranda House after about 7-8 years of teaching to set up a lab of my own for undergraduate students to come and have open learning through open-ended projects. And I think that's been the happiest time of my life. And that joy never stopped, because, as I told you, it became a mission in life. And so it was all the time learning with students and along with them. But that's a story I will say for another day. Today, I really want to say that, it's a very different world. And I would like to actually dedicate this talk to the Millennium Born, because they are a very different generation. And our language is not their language. And we have to, therefore, journey together. And yes, the past, the present, and the future, they all work together. And that is what makes us. So the very, very fast changes that are happening, they're happening in the aspirations, the government, the people, and women themselves have now a perception that, this century does belong to them. And they're making rapid strides in whatever they're doing. So this change in the social landscape and the exponential change with disruptive technologies and the entrepreneurial ecosystem is making a huge difference. And underpinning this, obviously, is the educational landscape. And the other thing that is changing rapidly is that the community engagement has changed. We have citizens being very, very proactive, and they have been also engaging in scientific activities and contributing in many ways. And in these circumstances, women and girls in STEM deserve their rightful place in the world, and they are also breaking stereotypes, and stereotypes are now very, very regressive. For some time now, we have been aiming to be a knowledge society. We are socially networked, and there are new ways of knowing and learning and sharing. The new skills and new instruments that are being used all along. And in these changing times with changing goals, innovation has been the new mantra. And India itself has been for a long time now investing in its human and social capital. It has been looking for sustainable economic development and wise management of its natural resources. But at the same time, we have so many grand challenges that whatever I say today, for one size does not fit all. So whatever I may say today for one segment of society is not going to be valid for other segments of society. So we are still besotted with problems of disaster resilience and energy, environment, food, agriculture. These have all been very major problems for us. So within this, as we were looking at sustainable development goals and so on, we find that we now are sort of living on a pandemic curve, the exponential curve. And our vocabulary seems to have changed completely because suddenly change has got accelerated. There's a new vocabulary in understanding disruption. We understand what is the meaning of exponential change, and each one of us is almost looking at how many cases have come up every day. And in meeting this challenge, we have done rather well because of the resilient and innovative research ecosystem that we have built in the country. And this is one of the most evocative examples of each for equal, because women and men together have been adapted, they have been resilient, they have been agile, and leadership at the top, whether it be and women in particular, be it Renu Sarup, Secretary of DBT, or Soumya Swaminathan, who is leading WHO, have contributed in a very, very major way for us. And it'll obviously take all men and women working together to end the pandemic. You have Sarah Gilbert, the Oxford vaccine come from there. In many countries, there have been all-women team that have been coming up with this vaccine. And in India itself, we have had a large number of women's researchers who are contributing to measures for fighting the pandemic. In fact, Minal Dakave Bhosale from My Lab's Discovery Solutions, Pune, she delivered on March 18th, when we had just about announced the lockdown, the first indigenous kit for evaluation. And this was very innovative because it gives results in about 2.5 hours with about 100% accuracy, and was priced at just about rupees 1,200. And she worked with a team of 10, of which 9 were women. And the entire work was done at a great speed in about 6 weeks. And on March 19th, she delivered her daughter, overcoming challenges of a difficult pregnancy in the last stages. And she says this was the time to work and develop a test for the country. So women have contributed in many, many ways, and she's not alone. So as we look at the new India, Suddenly, the vocabulary has changed tremendously, because we're talking of Atmanirbhar Bharat, we're talking of Startup India, we're talking of Make in India, we're talking of Skill India, and we have, starting from almost nothing, become self-reliant. We're even importing PPEs. We did not have enough sanitizers. So a lot of innovation took place, both men and women. Masks, whether it be wearable sensors or telemedicine. Again, Philips is a prime example where their telemedicine unit is headed by a woman. So in transforming ecosystems, the public and private partnership has played a very big role. Everyone has become a warrior. We've onboarded the digital world, as we have done now, and in education in particular, with very, very frugal innovations, teachers across the country began technology-blended teaching learning, and learned what is the meaning of a hybrid campus and hybrid learning, synchronous and asynchronous learning, and they were able to marry the real with the virtual, the brick and mortar with virtual, and anytime, anywhere learning. So from the youngest child to those who are very, very well versed with technology, everybody discovered a new normal. Learning to learn, upskilling and reskilling, finding micro credentials, developing mini qualifications, leveraging all these free courses that are now available across the world, getting micro degrees and nano degrees and building adaptive portfolios. That has become a very routine thing to do. And so therefore, we are experiencing what for a long time was being talked about, which was the exponential technology transformations, because we are now experiencing, and in a very accelerated way, that the world is digitized, it is disruptive, it is demonetized, because we are no longer going to the banks. Everything is happening from the power of our smartphones. Things have got dematerialized far more, because this was obviously happening earlier too, but now we are surviving because everything is dematerialized and delivered in the cloud to us. And much more importantly, it is democratized. So this democratization has helped everybody, and I do think it's going to help women in a very big way. So subverting established norms of doing business or running institutions, we now have business models, and they provide a leveling field, and they are great equalizers, and they are the ones that are going to empower the young, the old, the men and the women. But women can leverage this in a variety of ways, and sitting from the comfort often of our homes, we can do this. And because of cheaper and cheaper technologies and having dematerialized, now you no longer need to have no longer need to employ that many engineers to have a startup or set up an entrepreneurial venture, because life in the clouds makes it very different. You can order it as a service. We can have today the most powerful systems with very clean hard disks and desktops, because we have stored everything in the cloud. And Kinkini, today I really regret that you're not sharing my cloud to access my PowerPoint, because I really enjoy doing my PowerPoints. And so the graphics that I'm seeing, I really feel that I should be sharing with you. So this change 4.0 that was being talked about is upon us. And now if you were to look at what educationists are talking about and what the new education policy is talking about, it's very interesting to see that we now talk of introducing coding early enough, and algorithmic thinking is something that is being added to the 3 R's, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, machine learning, big data, deep learning. All these have become part of the vocabulary, and these are part of the vocabulary early enough. I mean, you just have to look at this lovely ad that keeps coming every day on television of a seventh grader or a 7-year-old maybe developing a mobile app. And everybody's after him because they want to commercialize his product and so on. So this kind of democratization of technology makes it imperative that we engender skills for the changing workplace. And more so, women need to do that. And if women have to make a career in India, as it is now, and as it is going to evolve, then the ecosystem in which they're going to enter is the one where you have to create your own jobs. You have to bring the skills that will give to you your jobs. And that's because India is making great strides, and we are finding that we are today the second largest startup ecosystem in the world. We're growing at about 10 to 12% per year. And you know, in 2019, there were 8,900 tech startups, and about 18% of them were leveraging deep technology. And in the world, we had at that point the third largest number of unicorns. And the key enabler in all this is connectivity, the exponential rise of smartphone users and internet users, and this connectivity and diffusion of high technology, including smartphones, is only going to increase, given that this has become the lifeline in the pandemic era. And we find, however, it's not an equitable world as yet. And it is for women and those born in this into this technology, the digital natives, to find their rightful place, because demography of the startup founders right now is 91% are men and just 9% happen to be women. And the age, however, is the younger, the better. Like I said, even a school child today aims to have his own startup, and many are doing that. So the average age of a startup founder is about less than 35 years, and a large number of them, about 57%, are engineering graduates. So fostering this innovation ecosystem are some very proactive measures of the government. In particular, Niti Aayog's the Atal Tinkering Labs have reached out to very young in schools. And in doing that, initially, you know, I was skeptically wondering how these labs are going to function. Are they going to produce more and more of electronic circuits and gizmos, or is there going to be some deep learning? But when we start looking at it now, today, the public-private partnership is really coming up. And what took me some time to set up in my own college, you know, the 3D printing labs and the Arduino tinkering labs and so on and so forth, the project-based learning labs. Today, these are disseminating across the country at a very rapid speed, and the young are now playing around with these technologies. So they're not just to the digital era born, not just to the smartphone born. These digital natives today are also leveraging some of the finest disruptive technologies that are on offer. And the Atal mission, with its providing for incubation centers across the country, offering new challenges every day, and promoting small enterprises and innovation culture, has actually changed not just the vocabulary, but also rapidly the ecosystem of the country. As I said, one size does not fit all, but the best practice, as is happening in some of those exemplary places, is soon going to disseminate, because even those on the margins of economy or geographies aspire for the very best. And in today's smart age, best examples have a way of percolating down. And the pandemic is only going to accelerate all these changes. And this moonshot generation, as it is today, the young think that anything that they want to do can be done. They focus on challenges, and they thrive in a culture of innovation, and they want to be participants in finding radical solutions to huge problems. And 10x thinking is what is going to be not just a new vocabulary, it is going to be hardwired in the DNA of all the young that are going to come. And at least as the education system must keep pace with this change, we have to provide that kind of a ecosystem and a transformative change in our learning, and it is possible. And women have to go along with this. We're already seeing, for DST's the participation International Science Engineering Fair, I'm one of the mentors. We find that young women from school, 16 to 18 group, are coming up with incredible innovations, and their projects could be addressing something like making an augmented reality machine learning system for spinal surgery, or a neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer, or looking at underwater propulsion device mimicking, or non-invasive diagnosis of melanoma lesions, and so on. And when these people, some of them from India and some, of course, NRIs abroad, and it's a global challenge, they are able to win close to $75,000 for their project. So that is the ambition and the aspiration of the young. And why I'm talking about the very best is because that has to raise the bar, that has to set the standards, and as educators, it is a bar that we have to be able to help every child cross. And these are the things that the new generation, the future, is beckoning us towards. And it's important. As I said, very young are getting into this innovation culture, and helping it are many of the DST schemes, many of the other national schemes that have come under the Science Technology Innovation Policy. Before even it was launched, we were seeing that colleges and schools were setting up many centers from where they could collaboratively begin innovation. So you may have in the country 7-year-old who is a TED speaker who has been making robots, Sarang Sumesh, or you may have Manak Inspire awardees, the top award going to a team of women. They could be from a remote area, not necessarily the very privileged private and public schools. As I said, the Atal missions are allowing children to begin their innovation journey very quickly and very early. So within that, it is because women are predominant now in school and college education. It is our moral duty to create a system of innovation. Unfortunately, education is the hardest sector to reform or to reboot, and if it is going to advance one step at a time, we are going to fall exponentially behind the world for which we aim to prepare the learners. And we have to, as we are learning, when we promote project-based learning, understand that educational institutions no longer are there to provide instruction, but they are there to produce learning. And learning design, creating learning environments, has to be the new innovation that has to come. And women in particular have to take the lead in this. So to keep being socially relevant, it's important that we create and adopt disruptive changes in our own ecosystem, adopt new technologies and new pedagogies, and look for new partnerships and new models. Sometimes we'll have to be pushed, sometimes we will be pulled, but this dynamics finally is going to be one that will accelerate change far rapidly than many of us imagine. And the aspirational country, students on the move are looking for this new digital transformation. So we also have issues of inclusivity, diversity, and equity, excellence, expansion. And gender is a very important facet of all this. So if I were to look at my own experience, ours is in a so-called elitist institution. That's because of our performance, because we have very high standards, and we provide high-quality liberal education, and our basic sciences is also very strong. Our alumni has made a place in the world for themselves. However, over the last few years, especially the last decade, more so in the last 4-5 years, the demographics has been changing completely, because 70 to 80% of those admitted into this all-girls college come from remote areas, economically not so well off. Many are first generation learners, but they are seeking a new identity and they are really aspirational. And in 3 years, I've been witness to the very sharp, rapid learning curve and transformative changes in their persona and their aspirations. And many of them have ended up in Ivy League universities, and they have built careers that would be far better than what I would have ever aspired to be. They are better scientists, and they are, speaking a universal language of innovation. And to watch this transformation has been very, very interesting. Breaking stereotypes and looking at all forms of discrimination as regressive is now the future that we need to work towards. And it is already happening, but probably yet we have not found our rightful place. And it is for all of us, each for equal, to create that level playing field. So celebrating women power is extremely important. If you were to look at ISRO's women scientists, be it Nandini Harinath or Momita Datta or Ritu Karidal, Anuradha, TK, Minal, Rohit, Mutaya Vanita, Veer, Latif Ambika, all of them, I mean, they're leaders. They have been leading a very, very difficult mission, because you can see that the level of planning, technology, accuracy, and the costs involved make it a very challenging work. And India, however, has being recognized for its science and technology, largely also because of the historic space missions and the work that they have been doing at ISRO. And my personal favorite is going to be this mission going to the moon, the Chandrayaan-3, because it carries, the half-humanoid robot is very, very inspiring. And I really wish I could bring her home and also put her in my lab and have students program her and play around with her. So with this kind of a technological breakthrough that our women have been doing, once given the opportunity in leading organizations such as ISRO, or when you look at that now women pilots are going to be flying Rafale, we know that women can do it all. However, yet the world is not designed for women, because it's been designed by men. If you were just to, because I'm talking about the space and our missions into space, that for women, there are not enough space suits. And they're also going to be about 17% more likely to be injured in a car crash, because the air cushion is not designed for women's physiology. And while playing the piano, they can suffer more injuries because, again, it's not designed for a woman's hand. And they can be misdiagnosed for a heart attack. Drugs are tested only on male animals. And Google also recognizes male speech better than it does the female speech. And as you can see, that it is a man's world designed by man. And therefore, it is very important that women should come forward and work in teams or work alone to design and deliver products that are suitable to both genders. However, the work that women do has historically always been hidden. They have not been recognized. They've not been celebrated enough. And it's only, it is so surprising that we today are talking about the hidden women of NASA, the women who were responsible for the mathematics behind space flights. And they helped win the space race against Russia. And as late as in 2019, were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. Not only were they women, they were also women of color. So you can see the challenge of working behind the scenes all the time and not getting your due. In fact, another favorite of mine will always be Ada Lovelace, the first programmer. And who worked with Charles Babbage and programmed the first analytical engine. And her work was it laid the basis for what we know of as our digital world today, because how computers have made such a difference. And setting up CompuAda as our own computer society was such a favorite time pass, because we had some of the best computer scientists come and speak to women students. And all those girls who have come out of computer science have made a wonderful career for themselves. In fact, today NASSCOM is headed by Devjani Ghosh, who's doing remarkable work. And NASSCOM's hand-holding of women in technology has been particularly spectacular. And working with companies, they have managed now to create an equal playing field for women, or are trying to do that, because companies are now certainly trying to have more women come in, and they have some very innovative programs to bring more women in leadership roles, more women on their boards, and provide better working conditions. So sciences as women, that is a perception that has never been the case. It is a man's world designed by men. Scientists are viewed as men, but women as scientists, or the sciences as women, is very interesting. And I have one of these, my favorites, which is a beautiful fresco which depicts women, all the sciences as women, and that's important. So if you were to also see why it is that the world, while using women's creative power, their fantastic metacognition processes, their fantastic algorithmic thinking, does not recognize that talent. If you were to look at how women are born entrepreneurs, you look for examples on your own, just look around you and you will know that the cultural diversity, our art craft, our weavers' fantastic work, everything is where women have led. So if you were to look at a patchwork quilt, you were to look at a complex pattern which has been knitted or which has been embroidered, just about anything, you will see that women have been entrepreneurial, and they have been creators, they have been innovators, they have also been traders. For example, Ima Kethal, Manipur's is world's largest women's market, which is about 500 years old, with nearly 4,000 women traders. In fact, the entire area was managed by women, and it has it is a delight to go and look at it, and a sociological study is very important. So today, the millennials, women entrepreneurs are very high profile. They're doing very good work, and we would like to hear more about them. It's important. But it's also important to understand the gestalt that scientists, tinkerers, innovators, entrepreneurs, they all have, they're the same shade, they're different shades of the same persona. Because successful scientists and successful entrepreneurs share many traits, attitudes, and skills. And basic science underpins technological innovations. All those technological innovations that have been successful are the ones, the science behind which has been very well understood. You just have to look at how computers have come up in such a, every single technology that goes into any of our devices uses science that is very well understood. So given the richness of women's participation in all activities, including technology, including science, it is a little surprising that we continue to talk about the loss of women after undergraduate level, and the pyramid is so sharp sometimes, And we talk of, is there a sticky floor or a leaky pipeline, or is there a glass ceiling that while the number of women is now, girl students is more than the boy students in STEM areas in school at undergraduate level, even graduate level and PhD level, but there are not enough postdocs. There are not enough of these women reaching into the research universities or the premier autonomous institutions of the country, where you would have, it is so dismal that you may have just 1 out of 3 being a woman. And even in the universities, we are somewhere 10%, somewhere 20%, and it's a global phenomenon. So this, what is called as the glass ceiling, is what we need to break. And the women that are going to now come into our universities, our institutions, who are going to set up their own entrepreneurship, are determined. And I mean, at least I would put it like that, to find their place, because all those that I have known have been hugely aspirational. And you just have to see how aspirational even our women in agricultural fields are, or you just look at how this, in Seva, that cooperative, how many years ago they made their own website and they had their presence in the e-commerce market and so on. So given a chance, given an opportunity, they begin to use new technologies, and they're doing very well. So it is now in what we call as our civilized world that we have to find that more women coming. But issues of equality and equity have many shades, and they're pretty tough. And I think today is a good day to celebrate the achievements of the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Awardees 2020. Unfortunate that there were just 3 women out of 14, but their work needs to be celebrated. Be it Bushra Atiq at IIT Kanpur for oncology, medical sciences, or Jyotirmay Dash at at IACS Kolkata in chemical sciences, or Thirumalai from NCBS. But it's so incredible that till date, since 1958, when this award was instituted, there are only 21 women amongst the 556 awardees, which is less than 4%. So in medical sciences, 5 women out of 64 awards. In chemical, 3 out of 96. Biological sciences, 3 out of 99. All sciences, 1 out of 50. Engineering science, 2 out of 50. Mathematical science, 3 out of 71. And in physics, just a couple of years back, Aditi Dey, 1 out of 104, which is, just about less than 1%. So what is going wrong? Why are our women not right up there? And this is a global problem. You just need to look at the Nobel Prize, instituted since 1901, and of course, with some disciplines a little staggered. You only have 53 women amongst 597 prizes. Because it goes to more than one, there were 950 laureates. And of course, Marie Curie got it twice. So you can count her twice. So it's 54 women. And this is really sad. And physics amongst them is just 3 prizes out of 213. And chemistry is, just about a little better. And medicine is 12. But these numbers really bother us. This is the same story of all the top science awards in India across disciplines. And if you were to now start looking at why is it that there are not enough women being celebrated and awarded for work, we have a deep problem on our hands, because women are not leaving science. They're aspirational. They are coming into it, and it's somewhere after they pass out, after their professional, they're ready with their professional degrees, for societal reasons, personal choices, some fall out, but many fall out because they find the climate and the environment is not friendly enough, it's not supportive enough for work and family balance and so on, and our policies and our ecosystem needs to change. So Asia data today allows us to look at exactly what the numbers are. And we find that, in engineering and technology, I mean, it's incredible that there's so many men and so few females. And biology, of course, women are outnumbering men. But when you look at statistics, you look at physics in particular, electronics, I mean, they're just, women are falling behind. And if therefore we look at what are going to be the jobs of the future, we need to look at how many women will be there with disruptive technical skills. So the percentage of women who are trained with disruptive skills is not going to be enough. For example, if you look at genetic engineering, of course, you'll find there'll be at least 64%, 54% women who will be ready for these kind of jobs. In data science, just 41%, which is less than 50. You come to human-computer interface and interaction, there'll be just about 30% of women who have those skills. You come to nanotechnologies, again, similar number, and so on and so forth. And cybersecurity is going to be so important, just 17%. Artificial intelligence, 20%. Aerospace engineering, 14%. Robotics, 12%. And cloud computing, 12%. And like I told you today that, I wish we were really using everything that I had in cloud, but somehow we were not synchronized, but not sharing enough, and therefore I'm unable to share my slides, which I have specially made for you, and really enjoy doing that. So we need to close the gap. We need to have women acquire skills at education level. They need training, they need reskilling and upskilling. And of course, we need to focus on retention. And in particular, because now technology, as I said, is something that is going to be our survival toolkit. Each one of us has to retrain ourselves. It's one thing to be able to go on one of these platforms, to do our work or to have hybrid campuses and so on. But at deep level, we need to be not just users, but we also need to be creators of these technologies. That said, these statistics raise a very critical question. And that's this question. How many girls and women had potential to be great scientists, but no opportunity? What ideas are lost to science and science education because so few women participate in it? And lastly, how many children have poor science literacy because their mothers do not know science? These should be questions that bother us. There are so many hidden barriers, and cumulative long-term effect or small differences can make huge difference in the way men and women from different ethnic groups get treated throughout their lives. If, say, majority of men experience a little better than one, let's say a grade or whatever, 1.001, and if majority of women are at 0.999 on the experience scale, whatever it may be, in 20 years, that would lead to a profound difference in their performance and their level at which they would be working and so on. So a very small difference can blow into people's lives, and they are therefore careers that will become impossible, or leadership roles that will become impossible for women. The debate on whether women can do science is settled. They can, and they can do it very well. The question is, why are there so few trailblazers? Is it because they had special abilities or special opportunities or a very definitive resilience, and they made their way despite all barriers? Or is it because of some other reasons? So we need to look at that, because success in science requires you to be creative, you have to have a certain cognitive competence, confident, you have to be, make your way through a very competitive world, even when you work in a collaborative manner. And you have to go on in a professional manner for a lifelong learning, and you have to keep coping with the changes that keep coming in the discipline on the frontiers. With that, I will keep using this, that today it is a moral imperative that if women can be so good, however few they may be, but they are examples of what they're capable of, what any woman is capable of doing, then it is a moral imperative that we should, in our institutions, early enough, schools, colleges, universities, and then in our workplaces, be they corporate or be they the most elitist of research institutions, create a climate and an environment that nurtures women. Because the quality of an institution is going to depend on its capacity to create opportunities for valuable experiences and growth. And in enabling career development, growth and progression is going to be important. In early years, we need to nurture interest, we need to provide exposure, we need to develop expertise, and as they move on to early career, women have to have ambition, they have to have opportunity, their motivation levels have to be kept very high, and when they come into mid-career, there has to be enough flexibility offered to them so that even if they take some time off, they're able to get back and pick up the threads where they were, and work and family balance as an individual wants it, those opportunities have to be there. You know, these of course can be interpreted in different ways, because professional women all know, I mean, whether they be in civil services or medicine or, whether they are in the defense services, name it, any profession. We all know that sometimes you have to give more than 100% of yourself and your time, and there are other times when you can be a little, more relaxed about things. But there's a difference between a job, a career, and a profession, and it is extremely important to have that continuum well defined and make your choices so that your competence level and your confidence remains always high. And as then, with disruption at each of these changes, from early years to early career to mid-career, moving to senior years, it's important that women be recognized, they be empowered, given responsibility, and they assume leadership roles so that they become role models for younger students. And that's important. So, as I said, meeting the diversity and inclusion challenge is going to be very important. So just like today we talk of multiple intelligences, emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and all kinds of kinesthetic intelligence and all, a very important intelligence that we now need to develop is diversity intelligence. We need to understand that we have to help people create a sense of identity and belonging, a sense of community, and they have to understand that different cultures do things differently. There has to be a global perspective. And in doing this, it is very important that we craft a science, life in science, is like weaving experiences. Example of a loom is most useful. So, like the warp, the straight threads that go up across a loom, the faculty, the institution, the community has to create that supportive environment. It has to create a creative culture that is engaging. And within this, the weft is students, peers, mentors, again, the community, who can weave very interesting patterns as they go along and, weave the thread across the warp. And this is what is life in science, in fact, a life in general. We have to craft it, and experiences are the ones that will help us to create patterns which are unique, individualistic, suited to what one's own interest area are. So institutions have to engineer experiential learning. Women in particular enjoy working with their hands, and they enjoy being in the role of a maker. The makers' labs are very important. So project-based learning with product development I have found to be very transformative. They enjoy working with communities. They are the ones who have been often leading social entrepreneurship. So context-rich problem solving and real-world problems are the ones which are going to allow them to blossom and to develop their innate capacity and professional competencies. Again, collaborative learning and having enough choice on what they want to do is very helpful. For women, therefore, while it's true for everybody in particular, I assert again, collaborative learning and choice-based learning is important. And careers and role models will help very much. So all this helps one to create a growth mindset. And, it also helps to close the generational gap when students and faculty work together. They work with the latest technology and have early exposure to what being a professional is all about. So education has to be hands-on, minds-on, and hearts-on. And it is like the weft moving across the warp of a loom to create a textured, innovative pattern which suits every life and is in fact a reflection of every life. And the nature of learning is changed, is going to be very different. You have to multitask, you have to unitask, you have to think fast, you have to think slow, you have to work together, you have to work alone, you have to act global and you have to act local. You have to live digital, you have to live real. And you can see that women have lived with this duality of being all their lives. So they're eminently suited to the future, which is so demanding that it requires these kind of skills across the spectrum of these dualities that I've spoken about. And it is important. So with so much of social learning taking place now, everybody is socially connected and so on, active learning environments with enhanced with social interactions are important, because you need to have these hands-on, minds-on experiences with active learning environments, but you also need to learn together. And with active social interactions, it needs to be hands-on. But that also does bring in a whole lot of ethical issues, because it is important that collaborative group work and teamwork is understood correctly. Very often, and women leaders and other leaders often find that they are left holding everything by themselves, and they work double the time. So it becomes difficult. So let me therefore say that for the future, we have to unlock early the digital power of women, the digital literacy, provide equal access to technology and digital training, and have internet and technology as enablers. And in our own work, as I talked about, my 30 years and 40 years of developing project-based learning labs, we worked with very low cost, almost zero cost just like kitchen experiment, the string and sticky experiments, having a box full of junk out of which you can do beautiful science and do that. And today, because we are finding that science in virtual mode doesn't have any of these hands-on activities, I think there needs to be a campaign, a mission, where everyone starts contributing small experiments and small science experiments for helping students. From there, we have moved on to sensor-based technologies and some very sophisticated work. And I'm so proud to say that girls have done a wonderful job. It's gone on to mobile my lab anytime, anywhere. And Manika, I promised that I would have you on my slide. And you are right here in front of me. And it was wonderful work that was done. Or early introduction to robotics and 3D printing, or working in collaborative networks, international collaborative work with, let's say, on particle physics, or say measurement of cosmic muons, when you know that your data is being put somewhere in Fermi labs and so on and so forth. So students have enjoyed doing that, and they've done wonderful work, or they've participated in hackathons and so on. And one of my favorite examples is of the IG Delhi Technical University for Women, Team Panthera, that was able to compete with energy efficient, low carbon electric prototype of a car, and they did an excellent work. So addressing real world problems is important. So the canvas for institutional mentoring is very, very rich across institutions, or should be, and liberal education ecosystem has all the ingredients for capacity building, be it education, institutional strengthening, or research and innovation. And in all this, entrepreneurship is going to be the way forward, because as I said, it's a gestalt of things, how you view it. There's a very thin line when you move away from being a scientist to being an entrepreneur. You're entrepreneurial in your own understanding of and your project-based learning, and you're doing deep science. And this linkage is important. What remains important is a passion to learn, a passion to solve a problem, passion to be in control of your own learning and take charge of your own career, be your own boss. And so the next generation of women innovators and entrepreneurs have to be given an institutional ecosystem that is innovative and that allows them to understand, explore, and materialize their aspirations. They have to be given opportunities for enhancing spatial and data visualization skills, be it graphing, modeling, simulations, video games, because these are the kind of abilities women don't naturally, as children, have a chance to develop, because they don't pick up a bike and go on 100-kilometer ride, or they don't just play with Lego early enough, and while their brothers may be doing that, and so on and so forth. So it is important that these things are given to them, and that every institution becomes a learning organization where networking and learning collectively is given precedence. And how to build effective teams, which I do think one managed to do, otherwise we would not have been able to do what we were able to do, is important. But a leader is only a part of the community, and a community must take charge, and not, very often there can be disruptive processes at play. So we hope that our women will early enough, those to millennium born, will be given all those competencies needed for life, successful career in an inclusive, sustainable world. And that I do think can come, those global competencies come best with just one thing: group-based project work. It has all elements that go into making of a creative professional, whether you can engage in organized discussion, guided discussions, you can have structured debates, you learn art of argumentation, supporting or opposing views, you can have theme-based work, or you can have product development, you can have open learning, and so on, and service learning, working with communities. Social entrepreneurship is most important. So these are the pedagogies that are important, and women are natural planners. They manage their lives rather well. But professionally, they need to set smart goals which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And most importantly, we need to create an ecosystem that will help them bridge aspirational gender gaps. Move from low move beyond limiting themselves to micro hopes or micro ambitions, to micro innovations on a micro scale, or just microfinance or micro venture, because the world is waiting for them. And for this new generation, it is important that we begin a new discourse. I hardly ever quote anyone in my talks, but this is one I cannot resist. It is very important to begin afresh the discourse. For, as Eliot said, last year's words belong to last year's language, and next year's word await another voice. So most important that our young women should be given an enabling environment and equal opportunity. With that aim in mind, DST is happy to launch Project Gati, Gender Advancement for Transforming Institutions. And we do hope that collectively we will create an environment that is a game changer. And because the future requires a diversity intelligence that allows equal level playing field for women. And because we have understood, whether it be coping with pandemic, whether it be surviving a crisis, nobody can do it alone. It is each for equal, and 50% of the population must find its place in contributing. And so, whatever may be, there will be local glitches, there will be barriers, one size does not fit all. I understand that very well, but exemplary best practice has a way of percolating and disseminating. That is, anyway, what is the model for innovation. And so dissemination and diffusion will come. But let us first create those best practices. And each of us, I know that those of us who are together today in this discourse, we are capable of creating this ecosystem. So rather than talk of what is not happening in some places, we need to talk of what we can enable, and from there, how then we can move on to make it happen in those places where the challenge is going to be greater. So with that, I'll be very happy to discuss with you if there are any questions, but I also want that we should start contributing our own experiences of best practices and what we have been doing, both for scaffolding education and a new model of hybrid education, and also scaffolding the initiatives which will ultimately allow women to weave and craft very successful lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an enlightened and insightful talk. We indeed need to have a culture of innovation, breaking the stereotypes, having a level playing field. Women have to lead in this. And as you mentioned, that given the richness of women's activities in science and technology, and given an opportunity, women can do very well. You've emphasized on the project-based learning, collaborative learning, choice-based learning to create a growth mindset and close the gap, and create an enabling environment. And we like that education has to be heads on, minds on, and hands on. Thank you so much for your wonderful talk. And we're extremely sorry for the technical problem today that we have faced. And it seems there's some issue with the online platform. We'll look into it, which we could really solve it at our end. By my sincere apology to you all. And I still feel, ma'am, we will share the PPT, because what it is saying is that I have sent you an email, which you need to give me an access to run the PPT, because the PPT has come on Google Drive, ma'am. And so if you can do it, share the PPT with everyone, because she's asking for.
So I think this talk, sometimes it's good to have a dialogue. So let it be, because, it was very heavy on graphics. That is my style. I really enjoy making a story. It is almost, very heavy on graphics. So that's why it's not gone. There will be other opportunities, but perhaps what is important is that we talk. So we should use the technology of talking to each other, and that is equally good. And I'll be very happy to discuss. Maybe there'll be another opportunity when we can go through the PowerPoint. So I don't think it makes much sense now to share the PowerPoint. And let us take the program onwards. And I'm really sorry that this happened. My apologies to everybody who's watching. But perhaps we can interact now.
Yeah. And I would like to share that we have received overwhelming response. We are overwhelmed to receive a flood of queries and questions from our audience who are connected through various platforms. There are more than 400 questions that we have received. So we really cannot have all of them. So we'll take some of them. And we are really thankful to the large audience who joined us through various platforms. We will now open the session for discussion. Those who are right now present online on this platform can ask directly questions to ma'am and interact. And we'll take some of the questions that we have already received through other panels, other platforms. So first, I will open the session for this audience who would like to directly interact with you. And then and I'll request Tusha also to help me in asking some of the questions that we have received.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm able to see a question from Anurekha ma'am, and she is present online as well. So I would
Yeah.
request
So
Anurekha
you
ma'am if
you
she could.
ask Anurekha ji, would you like to ask directly to ma'am and interact with her?
Yeah, surely,
Yeah.
surely, surely. I would like to ask Dr. Pratibha Jolly. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for organizing such an interesting talk. And Dr. Pratibha Jolly, it was lightning to hear you. And I have sent a request to you on LinkedIn also. Because for me, it was a double whammy in the sense that I am the coordinator of the Kurukshetra University Technology Incubation Center, and at the same time, the women faculty of Kurukshetra University has established the Women in STEM Forum. So,
Okay.
and yeah, so we are, and that was through DST. So we got a grant through DST for establishing Women in STEM Forum. We are in the state of infancy right now, so we are just doing a little bit of it, and your guidance and your suggestions will be step forward in establishing this center. So I hope so we'll get your guidance in this regard. And I have a lot of queries, but I just have one query. Like I would like you to answer one query, and that is that when we talk about women in STEM and their progress and disparity, I've seen that most of the universities, especially the state universities, especially, have timing constraints on the women research scholars, the women students, because of the hostel timings.
Because
Hello?
of, yeah,
Hostel
constraint.
also
What
hostel,
is it?
hostel timing of
Ah,
the hostel, entry time
yeah.
of the hostel. Yeah. And as a result of which they are not able to give as much time as their male counterparts the parts to research and other activities. When we talk about startup also, we talk about the team projects and all. In the name of safety and security, many of the girl students are not able to stay beyond 5 o'clock. And
So,
I think so
so
this is one
congratulations, allow me. Congratulations that you are heading the entrepreneurship efforts and also the STEM efforts. So please do write into me, and I would like to know about various such initiatives that are happening, and we would like to put it up in one place so that we can all learn from each other. And so congrats again, and do make sure that we will. We can put it all together, and we can polish our ideas and learn from each other. I'd love to learn from you as much as I can share my experiences with you, because each project is new. If it was not new, we would be play acting and we would fall into stereotypes. So my entire life has been in working on projects that have been open-ended and where I did not have a solution. Therefore, in modeling the process of solving, I was able to help my students. If I already had a solution up my sleeve, I would not have been a good teacher. So, we have to have the confidence of floating projects where we are just a couple of steps ahead. And the students can see us pulling our hair or telling, I don't know, or things are not working, and then together we find a solution. So that is what is a meaning of a faculty-student collaborative team. Now, what you have talked about is time constraint. I mean, these problems are real, so I do not want to trivialize. We ourselves, even in Delhi, have been often told that we create jails because students there complain if they think 10:30 is too late to come, and so even we opened our doors for far longer than that. But these are real problems, which are administrative problems, and they cannot be trivialized. Each institution has to find, but 5 o'clock is too early, and so women in groups can work and so on. My students have done all night work, but then I've kept the hostel open for them. They have also carried, like the experiment I was talking about, a measurement of cosmic muons. We are part of this. In fact, Miran House was the only college that was part of the COCNET international project that runs from Enrico Fermi Lab. But they carried their laptops into the hostel rooms or even the homes because it was a remote control experiment and so on and so forth. So things are going to change quite a lot, but we are very far from the time that all of our agriculture will be remote controlled, or we will have sensor-based agriculture and our plants can be watered at any time, even if there's a pandemic. But right now, lot of research has suffered because people have not been able to personally nurture their projects or take them forward. And women in particular have suffered a lot. But, I think in time, our effort has to be not to put constraints on women, but to make safe cities. So safety and security of women is very high on the agenda when we talk of climate improvement for work of women. And this is where I will leave it at this moment. But since if there are enough women faculty, I think you can talk to your management and top leadership that 5 o'clock is too early. I have my own experience when I was, let us say, at University of York or Maryland and so on, where one could ring in for an escort if one was working till very late. And even there, every time an email would come that somebody been marked at a far away or parking lot, or things were dark and all. So these are tough. But good institutions there would provide a service. So if you wanted to go for a play, or you wanted to go for a something happening in the city, you could actually request for an escort. So in fact, these could be services. They could employ people. So many people are looking for jobs. So when you have collaborative work, sometimes you can overcome this. I myself have worked through, because I did my research in computational, my work was computational. At that time, I worked on Jurassic Ages. So my 370 IBM machine, was the one that occupied a huge room, but we had to, we put in a huge deck of cards, and, you would get a result only after those 12 hours or 24 hours. And so working overnight helped, because you could make quick changes in your input data or based on results. And then we had to form teams. So we could always request some, other researchers and so on, male researchers, or have 2-3 women researchers together, book a time and so on. So once you want to do something, you can find a solution. But let me not trivialize it, because certainly we need safety and security in our cities. We need a very different climate. And across the world, things don't seem to be getting better. I will not say they are getting worse, but you can draw your conclusion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Anurekha ma'am. We have a question from Sangeeta ma'am, and she's active on GoToMeeting as well. So I would request if she can ask the question directly, or will I ask the question? Sangeeta ma'am, are you there?
Hello. Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, good evening, Sangeeta.
Ma'am, it was indeed a pleasure, a great pleasure listening to you. I'm basically an educator, ma'am, in the field of life sciences. Since you've been talking about the disparity of women in STEM, so I just wanted to know, like, the kind of exhibitions that you were talking about. Now, since I'm working in a school, the exhibition that you were talking about, the international level science exhibition, the international level exhibition fairs. So what would be the right way out, ma'am? Like at the school level, what support do we seek? And could you kindly throw some light on that?
So thank you for asking this question. Sangeeta, I did not speak of an exhibition, though of course students participate in static exhibitions or the models and things like that. I was talking about the Intel Science and Engineering Fair, which is an international event, and that is finally held in the US, one city of US. But over the year, different countries create the teams. So India, through DST, creates a team of 25 students who go there and present their project. Now, this is almost a research project or an innovation that they're working on. And it is open for anybody to apply for it. It is then there's obviously the usual process of shortlisting, and once the projects have been shortlisted, there's immense amount of mentoring that goes on, because obviously, you want your students to, it's not just about winning, but to learn from that experience, because this is a unique experience. So there is a very, very, deeply dedicated multidisciplinary team of mentors, and I have actually learned a lot from that. So just search out for ISEF. This year, unfortunately, that did not run, but also I'll share my email, so please write to us, but you can search for this. Now, that was a very high level, let me say not high level, high stake competition, because if somebody is going to give the first award at $75,000, it is high stake. But India wins many grand awards, and these often include an opportunity to spend a summer at a university in the US, or almost direct admission and so on, because everybody in the world is looking for talent, and India is being headhunted for talent. So we should be very proud. And the number of women in this has been very large. But there's so much happening in the country at different levels that it is incredible. For example, for younger children, there is the National Children's Science Congress. So please get your students to participate in that. That also is you can be as innovative as you like. Then DST Inspire program is invested over years so much of money, and the younger children can do projects. They go up to the regional fair, the district regional fair, then they come for national. Today it's called the Manak Inspire Award, where now you are talking of power of 10, because earlier we used to have 1,000 students present in an exhibition format their projects in Delhi, out of which you could have 3 or 5 awards and so on. But today you have 10,000 students, and they could be getting as much as $10,000 for their projects, and they could be selected by National Innovation Foundation to take it further. So the level of opportunity for young children is enormous. And likewise, if your school wants to do it, then government under the Atal mission, the tinkering labs are being scaled up tremendously. What every school needs to do is to understand that teaching does not take place only in the classroom. So much more takes place beyond that. And so much joy of learning comes when you're in charge. You're working together, and you are making things and breaking things, and creating. So even when I have had for my students projects, I have tried to create an element of making a product which is almost a prototype that can be scaled up and shared with others as an inherent part of it. Even sometimes the blue sky research, you at the end of the day, you want to get those even who want to do that want to get an experience of that. So and multidisciplinary teams. I recollect I had a student from St. Stephen's who was really very accelerated, and he was theoretically driven, and everyone knew that he would be a great scientist and he'd be a theoretician, and he would but he came and he said, "Ma'am, I want to do a experiment, and can you put me with someone who has more hands-on skills of using the hand?" And that's the whole idea. Put together people with different abilities, because working in a group, you don't need people who are your mirror image. So somebody is a good communicator, another person is good at electronics, another one is good with programming, another one is can play the devil's advocate, and someone can write out things. But they can all come together and learn with complementary skills. But group work ethics is important, because you can't have that somebody will just watch from the side and somebody will do all the work. So you have to have group work ethics. Management teams teach that. So learning to design learning environments has become very, very critical. And today I have a word for it, but I actually, when I was doing it, it was my sixth sense, my sense of doing things that taught me how to create a cognitive apprenticeship environment for my students, where very honestly, all of us were learners and we were doing things together and we were all growing together. Today, you need to have every classroom to have the teacher-student learning teams, and that's important. Does that answer your question? So look
Very
out
true, ma'am.
for
Thank you.
all the government schemes. So those are the walks of the loom that I'm talking about. And it is, I was the other day thinking, how come Niti Aayog is doing what actually associations of domain, disciplinary teachers should be doing? Because in the US, American Association of Physics Teachers or the American Physics Society will take charge of creating very innovative training programs, and the whole community gets together and they're built together, they're woven together, working for innovation and sharing with each other. And here you want to know, because there's no one platform where all this information is available to you, while it should be made available to you. And you should be trained into how to have active learning, build active learning environment, how to yourself undertake technology projects. So today I think teachers must come together as a group by themselves to do a action research project or a classroom research project or their own project. Groups of teachers undertake projects which is saying, look, I need to learn. And because there's no generational barrier anymore, put a couple of students with you, because they could be your technology leaders and you could learn from them. Best way of learning.
Sure, ma'am. I'll definitely look forward to that, and we'll get in touch with you as well. Thank you so much.
Next question is from Dr. Sri. I think he's online only.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for such a wonderful talk. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you, but you could be a little louder.
Sure, I'll be. Is this better?
Yes, it's better.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. This was a very wonderful talk. And actually, I'm a graduate. I'm a BDS graduate, and I have a lot of ideas talking about devices or even healthcare startups. But I've been struggling for about 2 years now, I guess, since I do not have any specific guidance on how to move about. Then formulating a team had been a challenge. And gradually, I also faced challenge with respect to grants and so on. So I believe that probably a good something like a place where we can get some guidance as such. And like I have not been able to patent my ideas or the things that I was working on. So how can we do that? Or what is where that I can go to?
So actually with Google, you should know the keyword to search for, and your answers will come. More answers than you can cope with, more opportunities that you can cope with are going to come your way. So IIT Delhi has started this wonderful women entrepreneur empowerment program. It's a 6-month course, and and DST is part of it, is supported, and in fact, they have just awarded 9 or 11 women for fantastic entrepreneurship, their ideas and startups. And so incubation centers are there, and institutions are being invited now to set up these. So look for an institution in your neighborhood that may have incubation center or a startup facility and so on. But this is, again, I'm simplifying it. So first, you need to know that from mind to market is always a tough job. and not everybody is able to get an idea into the market, and just like for any translational research is also, how many of our scientific ideas actually get to the market. You're seeing how difficult it is even now to say how soon vaccine will be usable, or how it will be scaled up enough for the whole population of the world, and how, so there are many challenges, but you have to make a beginning. So I do feel that entrepreneurial skills can be engendered, they can be taught, you can be trained, and have faith in your idea, and don't be averse to risk taking. So invest in yourself. I say this to women all the time. Invest in yourself. Sometimes, of course, this investment is time. Sometimes it's the hard work and perseverance. Sometimes it's even your money. I spent a lot of my own money because if I'd committed to go for a conference and I was presenting a paper and government grants were so frugal, I mean, they were never enough, I spent my own money. And because I'd committed, I had to live up to the commitment of having sent, having applied and my paper being accepted. So come what may, I would go. So investing in your professional development is important. But today, a large number of opportunities are there for you to learn about entrepreneurship. There's this nest bud also in across the river in Noida, and but IIT's program you should look at, and all universities now are promoting this, and many colleges have set up centers as well. And another way to do it is that join somebody. If you are not so sure, because there's nothing better than an apprenticeship.
Yes, sure, ma'am.
And have like-minded people come together, and depending on your risk appetite and your own personal circumstances and your idea, none of those I know right now, you can make a beginning.
Sure, ma'am. And I was just wondering, like, because I had been applying for a few fellowship courses and even places where I could get some experience. So is there a specific thing that everyone would look at, like currently, because I do not have a team, or I do not have a patron, does that make me ineligible for a lot of things? Or what can I do to make myself better in that?
You said you're a graduate. What does that mean? You have a bachelor in science? Honors?
Bachelor in dental surgery.
Sorry? In dental surgery?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my God, you should be so much in demand because you have a professional skill.
Yes, ma'am.
So just go join up because your skill is much needed. Doctors are needed across the country, but be mobile. If you say that you want a job only in that particular hospital or that particular clinic and so on, is not often the case, but be willing to join a well-established center or enterprise, which means really a dental surgeon who is running his own private company or is part of a public hospital, and go for it. But if you're looking for switching careers, that's also good, and you should be able to look around, and I think you need to actually brainstorm with yourself, reflect, and make up your own mind what you want to do. Once you do that, you will find your own answer.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, great. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We have Dr. Fozia. She will be asking a question directly. Dr. Fozia.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Fozia from NIT Bhopal. I'm associate professor here in physics department. I just wanted to congratulate you, ma'am. It was excellent talk. And one more thing, I want to tell you that your vocabulary, your modulation of voice never need a PPT with you. Without PPT was an excellent talk. And I have some queries, but I would like to interact directly with you on phone because there are some specific queries regarding our girl student in hostels and for other incubation centers. So Maybe some other time I would like to interact with you definitely, and I'll be happy if you kindly allow us to have your lecture for our students also. No, I'll interact you, I will contact you for arranging some lecture and have you as an expert for our students, girl students. But definitely,
Positively, thank you very much for your kind words. Both Kinkini and I am sure we are feeling a bit bad that PowerPoint didn't go, but sometimes it can be limiting because that would have taken so much longer. And I really wish everybody's video was on, then I would have felt that I was talking to you directly. But in my mind's eye, I visualized you all there. So let me say, yeah, you know, I have been in that. I have what you can call as trial by fire, because I have headed a women's institution. If you think that everything goes well all the time, sorry, sometimes I have experienced every crisis that could be there. But all that one can say is that, you know, one has tried one's best, and by putting the interest of those students foremost, because lives are important and helping them build their careers is important. I actually learned a lot, but also I devoted a lot of time into solving problems.
we can understand.
Now what happens is that if you think that a crisis prepares you for the next, you're mistaken. Because crises have such a vast range that every time it's new. And every time you feel unprepared, every time you have to depend on your inner strength and your inner competencies to tide over the new crisis. And all that is needed is utter focus and, you know, to develop the sense of how to interact with the needs of other people. And that is so demanding that sometimes you think that you are going to yourself become a wreck because you're carrying every burden on your shoulder. But these are important. These are very, very important. And so never think that there is a problem. Just think that it is a learning opportunity for improving the environment and climate of your own institution for the sake of your students. So with that, you will be able to handle it. And there's so much of expertise available today in the world that feel free to reach out. Many people are just a phone call away. So supposing it is mental health, right now there's so many free helplines. So you should have a directory of that and so on. If it is career counseling, there's so many people who are willing to give up their time and their expertise, and they're doing it. Some do it at a cost, but some do it for free. So your institution, since you wanted to invite me, you know, the world is full of people who would love to come and talk to your students, because students they have a way that, you know, they're attractors. So academics just go and give a talk wherever they're called. So let me say that please develop the skill of curating good programs. So think of a theme, an underpinning theme that you want to address, or that will benefit your faculty or your students, or identify an area where you want more hand-holding or more knowledge or you know, skills and so on, and curate a program around the need. Those programs are the very best. For example, now there is this need that we must create an equitable world. And so, you know, creating equal opportunities and overcoming the problems women in STEM field is important. So Kinkini has curated this beautiful program, and it's not going to stop just at my one talk. You know, I mean, there will be much more that will add. So diversity of opinions, diversity of ways in which people have solved problems is helpful. But I'm available to you, and I have actually emailed my address to the group, and sometimes I may not be available, so I'm sure that you'll not mind having
No,
a
no,
very
exactly.
quick, yeah, let's discuss this a week later or 10 days later. Or
No, no, exactly. We don't have that much of problem. We don't have any much problem. I was just telling that we can have your talk only.
I would
And
love
we
to.
have good campus. We have good campus. We have good number of students also at NIT. But anyway, thank
I
you
would
very
love
much.
to do that, and once travel
So
is
it's so much
available,
inspiration.
I would love to come and visit.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
Next question is from Manika Nagpal, ma'am. She is online right now, so she may be interested to question directly, maybe. Manika, ma'am, are you there?
Uh, yes, I'm here. Good evening, ma'am.
Hello, Monica. How are you doing?
I'm very fine, ma'am. Happy to see you after such a long time.
I'm so happy to hear your voice. Your video is off. Yeah, very proud of what you're doing. So before you even ask your question, I'd like to tell this wonderful group that Monica is a student of Miranda House, and she was part of one of our innovation projects in a team of 10. And they gave shape to my desire of many years. That was that every child should have a lab in the pocket. And so smartphones with so many sensors on them is a laboratory that a child is carrying. So develop applications. So mobile my lab anytime, anywhere is what Monica worked on as a physics student. And there were others from computer science. There were students of chemistry developing chemistry applications, of biology developing bio applications. And in one of our presentations I had to give to a body of physics teachers, I stopped my talk in between, and she was right on the stage of the prestigious INSA Hall. And there she was, and she won everybody's heart and, of course, minds with what an incredible app she had made. Over to you, Monica.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for your kind words. I actually have a question. I wanted to know, like, sometimes there are social barriers, like sometimes the parents aren't willing or the child has been conditioned, the girls have been conditioned to think like they should not step out and look for the opportunities even if they want to. So like, how can we work on motivating them and also the parents in helping them understand that they are capable and they'll surely reach better heights?
So, Monica, you bored me a googly, and we have had many conversations on this earlier. So let me simply say you are not alone. I mean, all of us have faced problems and we have overcome. We have walked the path that maybe our parents would not have been very happy with. Settle down, or don't do this, don't do that. Every parent once in a while says, but we have supportive parents, so we've had also great support. There's always a problem of the head and the heart. So as we move on now in this century, of course, one size doesn't fit all. So largely, families would be supportive. I have hundreds of examples for one negative case, and sometime I need to share those with you. The success stories of women from very traditional, even rural backgrounds who made it good and made their parents so proud that they wanted them to do far better and so on. We have so many such examples that maybe one opportunity we will call and curate a program for these girls to tell their stories. So the thing is that individuals have to, case by case, solve those problems. And while your mentors, your teachers can facilitate, they can always say, what a brilliant girl she is, and allow her to pursue the career of her choice. You are your best advocate. I have always said to all my students, you are your best advocate, and develop the skills of negotiation with society, with parents, with friends, with teachers. And you will be successful, because when you do so with great passion, earnestness, and honesty, there is no barrier. Family will understand, will see. They also want to be assured that the path you are choosing for yourself, you've not done it through just either peer pressure or in an ad hoc way, but you will, if you will, whatever it takes to walk on that path and build a successful, let's say, of course, risks are always there in any career and all, but you are determined to follow that. Nobody can stop you.
Indeed, ma'am. I actually have pretty supportive parents, but sometimes when I reach out to my fellow classmates, they'll not be ready. When it comes to a team, I really need to look for other friends, and sometimes they'll be like, "No, I might not be allowed." So yeah, I think thank you for your viewers. I really want to know that. And
the word you have used, it might not be allowed. So never extrapolate for behavior of society or family in one situation. They may have said no, but in another ways they say yes. So keep trying and create. Also all of us. I travel a lot and I do things by myself, but I'm not sure I've done proper planning. Because it's easy to say, every society, safe everything for you. Nothing is offered on platter. So we design the path along which we are walking very carefully, so that we don't lose our. We don't get stressed or lose too much of time. And of course, you can never predict, because things are very unpredictable, but you don't also go about doing rashly things, especially in your career. You have to plan. And sometimes, of course, even ad hoc and rash decisions may lead to success, but largely you have to understand that you are undertaking, you're making choices. So if your friends and team is able to say that, why you need to work as a team on a project and all, they are the guides. They have to negotiate with their parents. And learning that art is important for every woman.
yes, ma'am. I really agree with you. Thank you so much.
Next time, make your strategies. Strategize, and win your parents to your way of thinking.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was fun connecting with you again. I love to listen to more lectures from you guys.
I think this will be the last question that we'll be taking, ma'am, because the session has been for too long. This question is from Namita Pandey.
But I think it's we should not tire our audience here.
This is a question from Dr. Namita Pandey. What are the indicators to access gender equity in science?
What are the
indicators to access the gender equity in science?
To access
what are the indicators to access? What are the indicators? I'll repeat, ma'am. What are the indicators to assess gender equity in science?
To assess.
Yeah, to assess.
Okay, so
assessment.
So this is what Gati is going to work on. We will create a framework where you can create scalable and repeatable frameworks by which you can assess whether institutions are providing the right climate and environment for or gender-friendly policies. So what are the systemic and cultural changes? What are the changes in policies, etc., and action plans institutions must make to provide that kind of an environment to women? Now, obviously, it is so pervasive that you can start making the list in a very comprehensive manner. So if I don't talk of schools at the moment, what are your admission policies? In co-educational institutions, Are women discriminated at that point, at point of admission? So IITs, engineering colleges, don't have very many women, because cracking the JEE is also not easy. So, I mean, if it is going to be based on JEE, all of us know that, how much of the coaching commercial venture rests on training students to crack the plug-in chug JEE. And however innovative it gets, students will go to get very expensive coaching classes, and sometimes families may not invest that kind of money for women students. So helping women to get past that admission barrier. Once they come in, then orientation, because today students are traveling from all over the country, and many are economically challenged, many are have a language challenge, and so on. And to assist with remedial and bridge courses to provide them an input field or handhold, so that they settle rather well into their new curriculum and overcome these challenges. And if they have traveled from a different city, housing and residential spaces provided is there. Then obviously, the female hygiene, sanitary conditions of institutions, everything matters. Just talk about it and And we have so many questions have been on the safety and security of women, of the city, of the institution, of work timings for women when they want to work beyond the classroom hours or want to go on excursions, and so on and so forth. You name it and you have it. And it begins from that in their student days, and then mentoring has to be good, and students need the same opportunities, the best opportunities, and mentoring is very, very important. And help them build confidence, discover their passion, help them with career counseling, and find opportunities for them, and so on, and move forward from there. And when they begin to get jobs, recruitment policy to be gender agnostic. So very often now we are talking about, exceedingly it's being talked about, that whether it's a review of a paper in a journal, you don't need to know the gender of the author, because sometimes they get rejected just because it's a woman's name, or the gender of the reviewer, and so on. So a certain degree of gender, things have to be gender agnostic, and so on. Likewise, recruitment, and sensitivity to what kind of questions women are asked when they go for interviews. A woman will be asked, are you married, how many children, will you be able to commute, will you be able to stay beyond 5 o'clock, like some of you have asked, and so on. But a man will not be asked those questions. So all that is required. Then again, one of the parameters is, what are the family-friendly policies? India has maternity leave, it has childcare, and so on. And however, if somebody's dropped out, then how is she going to return back to career? And also, you may have women, because their biological clock makes them opt for families and all just at the time they need to build their professions. So awards for young scientists who are women, the age limit is often extended. Now this needs to be uniformly adopted, and so on and so forth. Again, in research grants and you name it, and not be overburdened on committee work, because there's so few women, so they end up being the woman representative on all kinds of things. So what is called as unpaid academic household work, and so on. So the list is limitless, and opportunities for moving to leadership roles. And leaders need to be trained. There are very few people who have that innate talent that they will make their way to the top, because they just learn themselves and do that. There are others who need training, and who need that. And we need to have more and more women in those leadership roles. So professional development and career advancement, all these issues are there. I have just touched on this one life cycle very quickly, but by the time you come to college, sometimes it's already too late. So things have to begin from childhood. They have to be there also in school. So let us say the life cycle mentoring is very, very important. And all of us who have made careers for ourselves, I think we must contribute to it. So, the Teach for India program, each one teach one. So each one mentor one.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. We'll take a couple of questions that we've already received from other panels. A few of them, since you've mentioned one with your JE aspirants, so there was precisely in this line, there was one question that I'm yet to understand. Last 12 toppers, mostly girls, don't make into IITs. What is detrimental factor preventing girls to outshine in modern times? So I think you've already addressed this question, ma'am. And would you like to add some points more to this?
Just that, some of these, every exam has its own character. For example, let me say that when the pandemic came up, suddenly all universities and UGC announced open book exams. And suddenly you saw people on Facebook had put masks of down with online exam, and the protests started and all that. So the fault lines of education system show up in exam because very often we teach to the exam. So if we have been teaching all year to a particular type of an exam, and if some crisis happens, such as the pandemic happened, and we change the rules of the game, and we change the entire format and structure of the exam, people feel uncomfortable. But of course, everybody managed to do pretty well because we don't know our own resilience and adaptiveness and how well we can do it. But the naysaying comes first. So the thing is that every exam has its own character, and it is in a sense a reflection on our teaching. So if our teaching is not going to be grounded in strengthening the foundations, the fundamentals, the cognitive, conceptual understanding, problem-solving skills, then exams are what we are going to be very scared of, And JEE is one of those exams which is really going to test you out. And if your schools have, unfortunately, not taught you to answer those kind of questions, then coaching is the bridge between that, which is a bridge over the fault lines of the teaching system. It's not a happy situation. It's not a happy situation at all. So I hope that with the new education innovations, we will move to a point where the individual is tested for the kind of scholar that education has made her into, rather than to fit into this mold of someone who has to take a particular kind of exam. Now, I think IITs have also launched a scheme where women will be helped to take the JEE. So keep a lookout for that. And the government, for many other exams, is now encouraging institutions to handhold those who are marginalized or are feeling that they cannot cope with it. I know that for civil services and many of the other competitive exams, institutions now are offering mentoring, let us say coaching. So sometimes the line between mentoring and coaching is thin, and the best coaching is one that also will prepare you for something deeper. It will be transformative. It will give you capacities which go beyond just cracking an exam. And I think women, you have very rightly said, face a disadvantage because they don't have those opportunities to help them to decode the exam.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, how do we sensitize the girl students at the school level to pursue their studies in the higher education in science? So,
yeah, this is very, very important. So as I said, the myth is that science, you need to be a genius or a prodigy to pursue it, because these are the kind of images of scientists that have been propagated for too long. For example, you have to be an Einstein or you will be a Marie Curie, then only you can do it. And you may want to be one, but you suddenly start feeling I can't be, or you feel that I'm not good enough at maths, or I'm not good at this or that. Women are not kind to themselves. They very quickly decide that they're not good at one thing or the other in this, but in real life they are so perseverant. They will do whatever it takes to run a household well or to do other things well and so on. But somewhere our classrooms have created a kind of environment where you are very quick to come to the conclusion. You don't solve one problem and you say, I'm no good. But some of the boys, even if they get 9 out of 10 wrong, they will go and say, oh, I'm pretty good, I can just crack it. It's just that this time I didn't do well. But women are not kind to themselves. They need to give themselves enough time to mature in the discipline. And with that, of course, we need to make teaching far more innovative and exciting. So any classroom is as good as the instructor in it too. So perhaps our teachers are also teachers tend to teach the way they were taught. And so this active learning, active engagement atmosphere, not every teacher can handle. Not every teacher feels confident about project-based learning, because you need to be able to say, I don't know. And people think a teacher is not supposed to say, I don't know. But that is a myth. So it therefore spoils the classroom environment. So I really suggest that, for girls in particular, more hands-on, more collaborative work is very, very, very important. And too early to say you are a failure. So teachers also need not do that. No, everything is mark-based and so on. So you don't realize that to do science, not everybody has to be a wizard at everything. I talked about complementary skills. So you can make a very successful life in science with being good at some things and not so good at others, because largely now science is also teamwork. So it is up to individual classroom, individual teacher, individual leader of the school and college to create an atmosphere that is more liberal, which is more, it values open learning. It values diversity of styles of learning, and which is engaging in a dialogue. Which begins with what you know, how much you know, and why you said this, having a Socratic dialogue to understand. But unfortunately, we don't have that much time to spend on each child. So both schools, families, other mentors have to create this atmosphere and have a less curriculum-heavy, less content-laden curriculum, which MEP proposes. So there's more time to cogitate, to discuss, to work with hands and all. So I always go back to saying hands-on, heads-on, and hearts-on. And the most important being hearts-on, motivate, create experiences for their child, match to her ability so that she experiences early success and is able then to negotiate things which she's not so good at. I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, yes, sure. Yeah, it does. Another one is equality or equity. Which is better to strive?
See, they're two different words. Equality would say 50-50. Well, equity says, equal opportunity. Let me simply put it. Get the opportunity to do something. Now, if obviously it should be an equal world. We want that if the population is, say, 50-50, then there should be 50-50 representation in all things. But you have to look at what the scenario is. So supposing that you're talking of research or a university job, and the pool of women from where you're going to select is not large enough. then you will not be able to move towards equality. But equity is something that you can yet have as a moral imperative. It is a belief system. It is set of principles that every institution or every individual must value. But we want to move towards equality, which means that we really have to work very hard so that the talent pool or the qualified pool from where selections have to be made is large enough to be able to get to equality. So in big institutions, so this is my answer to your question.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, due to paucity of time, we will not be able to take the other questions. So coming to the end of the session, we'd like to thank you profusely once again for such an illustrating talk and your valuable thoughts. It was such an honor and privilege to have you with us, ma'am, today. And we look forward to your presence and much more engageful discussions in future and coming times. And thank you all the participants and the audience, those who were present, and for your support and encouragement and patient hearing. And I again sincerely, apologize for not being able to run the presentation of ma'ams, which would have been really very visually enriched and also very informative. Some other time we'll really look into this, ma'am. And thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am, once again for joining us and giving us your valuable time and your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Kinkini. And I also join in apologizing to the group that we wasted your time because of technology. And because, I always talk of efficient technology usage. So I feel a bit embarrassed. But I think this was better because I could reach out a little better without the barrier of a structured PowerPoint. And Kinkini, I also want to congratulate you for what a beautiful and perseverant contribution you are making to science communication and empowerment of educators. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.